Hey, it's me, Michael, your favorite Agile thought provoker. In the last couple of years, I've been spending a lot of time with Agile transformations using the Scaled Agile Framework. And even though each transformation is different, there's a number of common pitfalls that organizations who try to become more agile using the Scaled Agile Framework should be aware of. And I want to share those with you so that you can learn from other people's mistake and do better in your own organization. Number 10, unclear strategic direction. I really love this quote from Lewis Carroll, Alice in Wonderland. Can you please tell me which way to go? And the Cheshire Cat answers, that really depends on where you want to go. And Alice says, I don't know. And the Cheshire Cat responds, then it really doesn't matter which way you go. And it's the same thing with a safe transformation. If your company has no strategy or your technology has no strategy, then it doesn't matter which way you go. You can go the waterfall way, you can go Scrum way, you can go the safe way. It doesn't matter if you're not going anywhere to begin with. So before you even think about implementing safe, think about, why are we doing this? What's the strategy? Where is our company? Where is our technology? Where is IT headed? If you can answer these things, then chances are that Scaled Agile isn't going to help you because you don't know where you want to go. Once you're clear on where you want to go, SAFe can be a great help in getting there better than you currently do. Which brings me to number 9. No compelling reason to change. And if you don't have a reason to change, why should you do it? If everything is okay the way it is, why would you want to make anything different? Sometimes I hear people saying, oh, we're doing safe because my manager said we should do safe, or because other companies are doing it. Neither of those are compelling reasons to do safe, because safe does mean you are going to work in a different way. It does mean that you'll be planning differently, you'll be delivering differently, you'll be organizing yourself differently. Old reporting structures, old meetings may become redundant and need to be abolished, which means people will be taken out of their comfort zone. Why should you do that if there is no reason to do it? Those two things together bring us to point number 8. Delegating the transformation. A very common theme in many organizations is that senior management keeps their hands off, even though Deming already said that managers have an important role and they must know what they must do. They can't just delegate, say we want to become agile, we're going to implement safe and now it's your job. That doesn't work. Senior management has to say what we want to achieve, and they need to be clear on what they have to contribute to success, and not just senior management. Middle management has to go the same way. And you can't just hire a bunch of safe program consultants to do the work for you. That's basically like hiring somebody to go to the gym for you. Well, that person might become buff, but you won't. If you want to be buff, you need to go to the gym by yourself, and it's the same with safe. If you want to be agile, you need to become agile. You need to do it. You need to involve. So you can't delegate it either down the hierarchy or to external consultants. You have to do it by yourself. And this brings me to point number 7. Being enamored with structure and process. You look at the safe big picture and there's a lot of structural change and there are a lot of processes to implement safe properly. Like for example, you have this routine with the PI planning, the iterations, the system demos, the inspect and adapt workshop, preparing for the next PI planning, improvement and planning iteration. That's a kind of routine, and to make those things work you also need processes, and you need to have the structure in place. You need to have your safe roles, you need to have the safe teams, you need to have the program backlog and all those sorts of things. Many organizations think that once we've got all the roles, once we set up the teams, once we know the meetings, and once we have everything scheduled, we are safe compatible. Well, on the outside it looks like you're doing safe, although what you are doing is just you're keeping the form. Safe is about being a lean and agile enterprise. And being lean means you really take a look at what works, what doesn't, and stop doing the things that don't work and improve constantly. And agile means that you figure out what is the best thing to do next, and you have the ability to actually do this. And keeping a structure and a process doesn't help you do this, especially if your process and structure, even if it is totally according to the way SAFe suggests, it is not flexible, then you're neither lean nor agile, so you're missing the point. So forget about the structure and process on the big picture. Think about how do we get better at solving our problems. If you look at this single point, then you're getting what SAFe is trying to bring to your organization. And that brings me to point number 6. Organizations that go the kind of checkbox exercise, what do we need to do in order to be SAFe compatible, they are looking at a so-called SAFe compliance standard. That is, how compliant is our organization to SAFe. That's totally missing the point, because it's not about how compliant you are to certain suggestions made by SAFe, but how effectively you are able to take advantage of SAFe to get better at what you are currently doing. If you're not getting better, you have missed the point of SAFe. SAFe is about bringing your company forward, allowing you to, on a systemic, on an organizational level, find out better ways of working and making them happen. If you're just looking at, do we do this process right? Do we do that process right? Do we have the right structure in place? Is everything the way that SAFe suggests? Even you use measurement systems provided by SAFe, you might still be missing the point. Forget all those things, care only about how good are we at solving our problems. And that's when you are getting to the essence of what SAFe actually is. Now this brings me to point number 5, which is only possible in organizations that look at SAFe as a form, as a structure, as a standard, and that is political role assignments, when the roles on the agile release trains are used in a political way, either to preserve existing power structures, to do favors to certain people, to promote the continuation of certain old practices. We see things like 20 people becoming product manager of a single release train. We see things like the release train engineer being the line manager of the developers, or things like that. They might make it easier to get management buy-in or even labor union support for introducing SAFe, but they don't help you get better as an organization. The most important thing is that you have a product manager who understands product management, that you have a release train engineer who cares for continuous improvement, that you have a system architect or a solution architect who really cares about bringing your technology forward. That is much more important than having the people who have either the same role in the past or who are a political fit for this. If you can't assign the right people to the release train, your release train is off track to start from the beginning. And it's very hard to get a release train on track later on in the process unless that release train has already failed and gives, coming back to point number 9, a compelling reason to change. Having politically assigned roles usually also combines with mistake number 4, and that is skipping the training. SAFe is very clear. Train everyone, then launch trains. Many organizations think that, okay, we can just skip on the trainings, we'll wing it, we'll learn on the job. My coaching experience has taught me that you will be paying multiple times the cost of a training in lost productivity, in superfluous meetings, in inability to make the right decision in a timely manner, in not being prepared on time, in additional coaching to get people on speed with their safe role if they didn't have proper training before the release train started. And this proper training is really a small investment compared to the benefits that you get out of having people effectively work from day one when the release train is still being conceptualized. You need to see that a release train doesn't start on the day of PI planning. The release train should be conceptualized a long time before that, because you need a program backlog, you need an architectural vision, you need development practices, you need to agree on things like who's even part of the release train, you need to have the budget for the release train. All those things take time. Why not take time to send people to training during that time? The main reason is two things: not understanding the importance of the training and trying to save money. Both of those reasons are really bad reasons to skip the training. Which brings me to point number 3. Not keeping the roadmap. The SAFe implementation roadmap is quite clear. First, you should have the tipping point. That means management should attend leading SAFe to understand why it's important to make a change. Then you should have a value stream and art identification workshop to figure out what even the right agile release trains are, so that you can bring the right people together into proper release trains that are able to generate end-to-end customer value. If you can't do those things, you're not going to do SAFe right, but actually doing SAFe right doesn't matter. If you can't do those things, you're spending a lot of time, energy and money in order to do something that is not so effective. To take advantage of SAFe, to really get the maximum benefit out of SAFe, those people who created the SAFe implementation roadmap, they haven't done it for nothing. And still what I see in practice is organizations say, hey, let's do SAFe, we went to leading SAFe, it's totally great, let's start to do the agile release trains. Okay, we have an agile release train here, we have an agile release train there. One of those agile release trains is to do some infrastructure work. Another agile release train is, for example, CRM. Another agile release train is SAP. And everything stays pretty much the same, because those agile release trains are nothing other than the pre-existing delivery teams put together in what people think is an agile release train. That doesn't generate the value that you're trying to get out of an agile release train, which is high quality with shortest sustainable lead time. So stick to the implementation roadmap, train your management first, do a value stream and art identification workshop, which is really a great exercise. In some cases it will help people see how their organization actually ticks, which they've never seen before. And only once you do that and you know which the proper arts are, then bring people together in the arts that create end-to-end customer value. And only after that, determine who should actually be the release train engineer, who should be the product manager, who should be the architect. Don't do those things before you know what the right release trains are, because otherwise you'll be ripping release trains apart in the middle of the running release train, and that is already a social issue, because people get taken away from their groups another time and they may not understand why this happens. This brings me to point number 2, local optimization. Organizations are really great at optimizing locally. We see operations optimizing for optimal operations. We see development optimizing to speed up development. We see testing optimizing to speed up testing. We even see entire systems like SAP optimizing to do SAP implementation in the most effective way. But none of these things matter, because what matters, and SAFe is very clear on this, is the customer. Customer centricity. Who is your customer? Who are you doing this for? If it doesn't serve the customer, you might be doing the wrong thing. And many organizations, they form their agile release trains, or they optimize on the agile release train to serve any kind of local interest. That local interest could be a certain division within the organization. It could be even the agile release train itself. It has to be the business. If it's not serving to optimize the way we do business, we are not using SAFe in the way that we should be using SAFe. And a totally different issue, and that is the most common issue I actually see in many organizations. SAFe is the Scaled Agile Framework. Yet many organizations fail to take care of, which is point number one, not having agile practices in place. You need to have agile practices. If you can't do test-driven development, if your developers don't get time to do refactoring, if you're sitting on a bunch of legacy code that is unworkable, if you're sitting on technical processes which don't allow you to do continuous integration, continuous delivery, continuous deployment, how do you expect to be agile? You need to invest time, money, and capacity into allowing your teams to become agile. Once your teams are agile, SAFe is a fairly easy exercise. Without agile teams, SAFe will be very frustrating, because the first thing that I can promise you will happen, after the first program increment, there will be very little to show. After the first iteration, there is definitely nothing to show. So we start skipping the system demos, which breaks the feedback cycle, and we are falling back into old habits. To avoid this, we need the agile practice on a team level, and to build on this agile practice in order to become a scaled agile organization. So to sum all of those points up, we need to have a strategy. We need to have a compelling reason why the way we currently work is not the best way to execute upon our strategy. We should have enough agility on a team level to execute on a strategy in the best and most flexible way, and then bring SAFe together, then bring the right people together in the agile release trains to take advantage of the team level agility, of the synergy of having a lean agile enterprise, and of having lean agile management. When we have all those things, then I can promise you SAFe will be a massive step ahead of having multiple individual agile teams trying to optimize for their own work, because SAFe will become a collaborative, aligned way to bring the organization as a whole forward. Okay, I hope you liked this video. If you have any questions around SAFe, feel free to contact me directly, and I'll see what I can do for you. Enjoy.